afternoon and welcome to a very special treat. I'm Randy Levine Miller, who produces these celebrity luncheons, and oh my goodness, this is really very special. And also it's a gorgeous day today, and they said that it was going to be raining all day, so everything is going to be even brighter because of who we have as our very special guest today, the unsinkable Debbie Reynolds. What I'm going to do is we're going to begin the proceedings, and I'm going to bring up our much esteemed dean, the best dean we've ever had, Dean Freddie Roman.
Thank you, Randy. My darling, we are so proud that you have entered our building for the first time in many, many years. And we know that you will love being a friar. And I officially am making Debbie Reynolds a friar, and you are now a member of the club, and your first bill will be $1,244.
Get it out of Eddie Fisher. Carl, either one. I don't know if you're going to get another schmuck.
Debbie married 2 Jews. Wasn't too thrilled with either one of them.
It wasn't the Jewish part, they were just such jerks.
Anyhow, on the other hand, I had the privilege of appearing. Debbie bought a hotel in Vegas several years ago, and I had the pleasure of appearing there many, many times. And it's just such a joy to have you at the club. And please, whenever you're in New York, make us your home.
I'm going to hang out here.
Do you want to sit?
Do I want to sit?
Sit behind you. That's your chair.
No, I don't have to sit.
Okay.
Whatever you want me to do, Alice.
Okay.
You want me to sit? It's the highest
Oh,
chair
I
I've
would-
ever seen in my whole life. I couldn't get my children. It's not me if I tried. I could do a Martha Ray bit. George says to me, go to your room. Okay, no, that's all right. I don't have to sit. Why do we have to sit? We're supposed to answer questions. That's all right. But that's the biggest, isn't that the tallest thing you've ever seen? Reminds me of my second husband. That's what he said on our honeymoon. Get up there, honey. I can't find it, it's so soft. It was my third husband, he was a Gentile, that's why. There's just a little bit of difference.
I don't think you need me.
I don't.
Listen, you weren't kidding in your act. You always talk about the one leg, but both of them look pretty darn good. How do you take care of yourself?
Well, I don't get married. I'm not married. What do I do to take care of myself? God is very good to me right now. My health is holding, and that's all I care about. As long as we keep healthy.
I just heard you tell some friends that you would never get married again, and you even encouraged George Irving and Isabel to live separately.
Don't say I said that. Because George Irving, I love you, George Irving. Isabel, you're an adorable girl. George and I did Irene together, and there's nobody more gifted in this whole world than George Irving. We had such a good time, didn't we, George? And he could do the best dialects, any accent. Whenever we would ad-lib, because he was playing Madame Lucy, and that's, with a French accent. And then some nights we'd dip into Italian or whatever. I don't know what in the world we did. You want to come up and say a few words? Because Ellis hasn't started yet.
George, she hasn't given me a chance.
Oh, George is going to come up and say a few words.
Für meine junge Jahre. No, it was a highlight of my career to work with Debbie, and incidentally, Sir John Gielgud. Remember Sir John? Debbie, he would always say to Debbie, "No, please call me John, call me John." And she would say, "Yes, I will, Sir John." Well, gee whiz, I don't know what to say.
Well, maybe I would like to say something to Miss Reynolds that you said about her. How about that?
Okay.
Debbie, when I interviewed George one time, he said,
Well, let me
Debbie
give
was,
George a kiss and tell him I love him. He's very special. We love you, George. George Irving is the best. We thank you, George. Go
Debbie,
ahead, Ellis. I know you're dying to
when
talk
when
to me.
I interviewed George, he said, Debbie was kind and easy to work with. What I admired the most about her was that she'd try anything. The boys throwing her around, whatever, nothing fazed her. She was a good dancer and had a very strong body. Still does, doesn't she, George? She loved doing the physical comedy. I was amazed at her knowledge of the business. I thought that was a very nice compliment.
And you could have heard it from George.
They did.
We thank you, George, that you said that you could have said that again. It was really nice. Very good. You said that. Very well said, Ellis. Every word is true.
Every word is true,
Yes.
yes. The physical comedy, did it come about from the fact that you wanted to be a gymnast?
Well, physical comedy is the best, when you do shtickluck. Well, you saw me get up on the stool here. So I like to do physical comedy. Larry Storch is only the best, of course. I love you, Larry. It's good of you to be here today, and I just think you're the most special talent that we could even imagine. There's nobody funnier, and I love you. No, come here, Joe. Come here. I want you to do just one of the voices. Who should we do? We did a little act together. Just sit there, dear. Larry and I did a show together, and he does the greatest voices in the whole wide world. Who should we do?
James Mason.
It's James Mason.
Well, James Mason sounds something like that. I remember at a party, James Mason I was standing next to James Mason, and Joan Rivers came busting in with her husband, loudmouth, arrogant, and James Mason just stood there, and he said, "Oh, there they are. Perfect couple, aren't they? He's a proctologist and she's a pain in the ass."
Larry Storch, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
Isn't he adorable? Okay, hit it up.
Okay, can we get serious?
What I love about shtick and comedy is that, there's nothing like, well, that's why the Friars exist. Because the Friars, you all got together years ago and created this warmth and this club and this camaraderie and this ability to be together. Because show people are, I think, very special. Because that's what makes Well, we're all a little crazy, so we have to find a place for us in the world, and the Friars allows us to have a place in the world with dignity, and this lovely, beautiful place to come. You have a beautiful club and an organization. I'm very proud that you invited me to be here. I mean, I'm really going to take advantage of this. I'm going to be again, and I love my chicken today. I didn't know you had good food, too. You didn't know.
You didn't. It's not easy. Okay. What possessed your father to relocate from Texas to LA? Was he looking for work?
You're going to ask these dumb questions.
No, they're not.
Okay.
They're not done yet. They may
I'm
get
going to
done.
tell it really fast.
Okay.
When my dad, we were really poor, and I was born in Texas, and my daddy said, this is dumb. You know, he didn't want to be poor. So he worked for the railroad, so we were really, really poor, dirt poor, and he moved us to California, and that's how this started. My career started in Burbank, California. He built a little house through FHA, because in the old days, we would get federal housing, you know, so he got a little loan, and he built us a little house in Burbank, and I entered this local beauty contest, Miss Burbank, and I borrowed the money from the Salvation Army, because I didn't have money for a bathing suit, so I got this bathing suit. It had a hole in the rear end. That's why I won. I think it's a hole in one. So I won this contest, and they took me to Warner Brothers, and it was a big studio, you know, called Warner Brothers, because in those days we had Warner Brothers, MGM, you know, and Fox Studios, Columbia, and then that's how this whole career started. Now, you want to take it from here?
Well, you were a big movie buff, and your first film, you starred in a film that Betty Davis starred in. Did you get to meet Betty Davis on the lot? And
Well, at Warner Brothers, Betty Davis was the huge star. James Cagney was a star. You know, they did all the westerns and all the gangster films. So Betty Davis did a picture called June Bride, which was not a great movie and all, but Betty was the star. I remember getting to meet her. So, I was just an extra. Like, I just stood in the background. I didn't, I wasn't in the film. I mean, I stood there. So Betty Davis was the big star. So that's how I met her. Later on, I got to make a picture called The Catered Affair with her. So, did you want to ask me something?
well, how did that go?
I could do this much faster, but...
You're not being fair.
No, you wanted me to... That's how I met Betty.
But by the time she did The Catered Affair, she had a reputation. Now, she was back at MGM. She was at MGM, which is your old stomping grounds. But Betty had a very difficult reputation then. How did you and she get along? Because you were both starring in
Well, Betty Davis, and every star, women were known to be difficult, even though they were just the same as men, and they were just being professional. But they weren't. They were just being professional. They were just Betty Davis was a woman that knew everything about acting, and she was brilliant. And my director, because I was just a young girl when I did that picture, and so I was, I think I was 22, and she said, my director, he didn't want me. His name was Richard Brooks, very famous director. But he didn't want me because I was Little Miss Hollywood. And I was dating Eddie Fisher at that time. So he really didn't like me at all. So he thought I was just a stupid, little starlet. And I probably was in those days. But anyway, he didn't think I could do it. But Betty Davis said, Jamie, only work with the greats. And you'll be great. And we'll run over his leg with the camera. And they did. The crew ran over his leg with the camera. One day they had the dolly shot, and the crew just kept going. Ran over his foot, broke his foot. The shame, isn't it? Well, that's just one of the stories. I have so many stories. 60 years later. I mean, I'm 77 now, so it's like...
Okay, after a couple of pictures at Warner's, you were signed by MGM. That had to be a great thrill, being at MGM.
Well, MGM was the top of this line, but I didn't know that, I was just a kid. So when, actually, Jack Warner sent me to MGM because he said, what am I going to do with the kid? I don't know, we're not going to make any more musicals, so I'm going to send her over to LB. So Sully Garner was his name, and he drove me in his Cadillac I was really very impressed, over to MGM Studios, where they auditioned me to do I wanna be loved by you, just you and nobody else but you. Boop boop be doo. So that's what I sang in the movie, Poop Poop be doo. So I started. That's the first part I got, and then they signed me and put me under contract. And then I did a picture with Carlton Carpenter, who lives here in Warwick, New York, and we sang the chippy to the monk. You wants to sing it with me?
No,
Come on. Oh, not long they chat. I was like, oh, they love it. You don't even know it, you stupid.
I'm trying.
Should have practiced that one.
I should have
No, we
rehearsed.
did Abba Dabba, and then following that, I was very fortunate to be put in the picture Singing in the Rain. So that's what started my career, Singing in the Rain.
Was that an intimidating project working with Gene Kelly and Stanley Donen?
Singing in the Rain. To dance with Gene Kelly and Donald O'Connor, first of all, I didn't dance. So I was an athlete. You know, when I went to school, I thought I'd be a gym teacher because that was my only aspiration. You know, when you have dreams as a young person and your life is poor, you don't dream about being a movie star. I mean, you dream about, if you're lucky, you could maybe get a scholarship and go to college, or just get a job, because you certainly don't dream about being in the movies. But God was really good to me and landed me in this business, because this is a different business, show business, and it was the right one for me, because I had a big mouth, always had a big mouth, and my mother said I should have been born twins because I always talked so much, and I always had such a good time, and I always impersonated everybody. I'm sure like Larry, you know, it's something you're born with. You know, we have perfect pitch, and we can imitate anybody. Anybody you want to be, anybody you can be, George Boy, you can be anybody you want. But or if you want to be Catherine Hepburn, you can be Catherine. Oh dear, dear. Oh, I love to go down dancing at the Friars. Oh, I love to eat their chicken. I love their chicken. Even my chicken shakes. I don't know.
When you were making the film, did you have any idea that it would become the classic even the hit that it became?
Well, not I, because
classic?
I was 18. You know, I didn't know anything. What did I know? I was just lucky to be in it. And I was working so hard because to keep up with Gene Kelly, I had to learn how to dance in 6 months. I had to practice first 3 months without anybody. I had 5 teachers, and they all worked really hard with me. And Donald worked really hard with me because he came from the circus, so he had a background, you know, and my daddy worked for the railroad. I mean, my mother sewed, you know, we were just normal people and below average in financial means. So certainly there wasn't anyone there to have an example from. So the Gene Kelly was my boss, and a very tough one, but he was so gifted, you know, and he spent all his time kind of roughing me up, but it's to make me better, you know. It's always good, like Betty Davis said, only work with the greats. So I'd always remember that. And I was always crying, you know. So it was a tough picture. My feet were bleeding all the time, and, you know, we worked, you know, in those days you worked Saturday, you had Sunday off to faint. And if you had to work at 4 in the morning, you had to be in makeup at 6 o'clock, and you worked till 11 at night. And Gene used to shoot your shots like 40 times, you know. So each take he'd do 40 times over. So it was not easy in those days to make movies, but it's still not easy. It's just to have. They get paid $21 million. We got $65 a week, and $300. Finally, my salary was $1,500 a week. That's what I made. So that was in the old days.
When we spoke for our interview, I remember you telling me that MGM really educated you, that you came in even on your days off and you hung around to take dance lessons and to watch the craftsmen work so you could absorb all of that.
Well, I couldn't be happier. It was such a wonderful place to be, and they gave me a little dressing room, and I just stayed there. And I'd watch everybody. I learned cinematography, I learned lighting, I learned editing. I loved editing. That was really I loved makeup, you know. I loved going to the laboratory and learning how to make fake ears and fake noses and learning how to play with all the stuff. So I just think it was an education, and it was like a university For those of you that know, the studios were a university. And Esther Williams to this day is furious that we didn't get a diploma. In something, like fine arts, instead of not receiving any kind of a scholastic training. Because I was there 17 years, and all of us were under contract. Most of us were over 15 years. So Lana Turner, Ava Gardner, Grace Kelly, they were all there, and Judy Garland, Clark Gable, all the great ones, Greer Garson, Spencer Tracy, all under contract, all driving around, walking around, and all teaching you. Lionel Barrymore was there. He was there in his wheelchair. He had a wheelchair. Lionel, he'd just be wheeling around. And he loved music, and he was a great composer, by the way. And so he'd talk to me, Debbie, he'd stand at the gate, at the cop gate, at the front gate, and he'd talk to me and just tell me, well, what are you doing? What are you studying? Sounds like Jimmy Stewart.
How about Mr. Mayor? Did he flirt with you? Did you flirt with him?
No. Why would you say that?
Well, he had a reputation of flirting with
No,
his...
he didn't. No, that was Zanuck.
So he was like your papa?
Yeah, he didn't ever bother me. Now, you've probably heard that rumor from Judy, maybe. But I think they just overworked Judy to death. But
And you and
that
Judy
was
were neighbors,
Zanuck. That was true of Mr. Zanuck. He was a sort of I don't know, if you want to just in the old terms call him a rounder sort of person. But no, Mr. Mayor never bothered me. He was so good to me. He gave me my life in the way of happiness, because my happiness certainly hasn't come from my personal life. I mean, but
Your life wasn't an MGM musical?
no, well, it was an MGM drama. I've had a very interesting life, to say the least, but it's been a little difficult. But it's all right, because my personal, my happiness is my children and my friendships and the joy of being in this business. It gets a little tougher now, I must say. It's a new challenge now. As you get older, you find the business stays younger, and they don't want older people. So it kind of outgrows you, and they think of you as old fart.
Now,
That's spelled F-A-R-T.
one of your first films was with Fred Astaire.
You can't
See
use
what I'm
that
talking
line,
about,
can
Fred? One of your first films was with Fred Astaire.
you? He goes on and on.
Did you dance with Fred in
Fred
Three
Astaire,
Little
I
Words?
did. I sang that song, Poo 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 Doo. Later on, I did The Pleasure of His Company with Fred Astaire, where he was my daddy. And so that was a straight part for Mr. Astaire. And we just did a little dance at my wedding. I was his daughter. He was the nicest man. I mean, we were friends. He was really kind. And you could always get to see him, call him up at home. He answered the phone. He loved to play billiards. And he loved to roller skate, the little roller board, He was really lovely, kind, Larry's sweet, like Larry Storch and George Irving. They're quiet, but they're crazy. They're funny. Well, Larry, crazy. You are crazy.
You know me all these years. Am I crazy?
Yes, totally.
You left a straitjacket outside.
You left his straitjacket out outside. Larry carries it with him. Are you kidding? No, it's been a glorious life. I've had a glorious life, and
Okay, we're
this
jumping-
makes it even more. Being a part of this idea of the Friars coming here to New York. I've never played a club like the Carlisle room. Is so small. It's just so tiny. I'm just stunned by it, because the customers are sitting right here. And you're singing your song to them. You sing, gee, but it's good to be here. And they're right there. That's it. That's it. I feel right at home. This is where all the excitement is. This is champagne. Oh, hello. Gee, but it's good to be here.
Okay, I just deleted that question. Okay. Let's jump forward to Tammy. That was a major... Tammy wasn't the greatest film in the world, but that was a great event for you, because you had a big hit record.
Well, it was a sweet film.
Yes.
When I read it, I said, I'd like to do it. It was with Universal, so
Yes,
it wasn't at MGM. And so I was borrowed. And Leslie Nielsen was the star. And he was from New York, and he was a very serious actor. Yeah, and Leslie didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do it because, you know, he thought that was really corny. And it was. Walter Brennan and a goat. And, and Debbie. And Leslie thought, God, I come from New York, I'm a serious actor, I'm gorgeous looking. What am I doing in this stupid movie? So he was really annoyed with the whole thing. He only became funny after Naked Edge. Was that Naked Gun?
Naked Gun.
Naked Gun. He made millions by being stupid and acting crazy and farting and everything. And now he loves it. Now he loves comedy. All of a sudden he's all right now. It's okay. You don't have to be a serious actor. You can be funny and make millions. So he does that now. Now he's very happy. He doesn't mind my saying he was in Tammy.
Well, in Tammy, you also worked with Fay Ray.
Yeah, yes, it was one of her last pictures that she did. And I forget the gentleman that played my dad. It was also his last picture, Dad.
And then
Dave
Louise Beavers was also in that.
Who's that, the
according
name
to-
of the goat?
According to my note, Louise Beavers. The black actress.
He does a lot of research.
Maybe her part wasn't very big.
No, Alice Pierce, my friends that were really my friends, Alice Pierce was my friend. I loved Alice. She was so funny. She was wonderful. George Goebbels was my friend. You know, my friends were all, you know, just wonderful character actors. Ed Begley Sr. and Thelma Ritter. She was the funniest lady in the whole world. Agnes Moorehead was my dearest friend. We were together all the time because Lucille Ball, she lived right up the street. You know, we all kind of lived together. Jimmy Stewart, and they lived on Roxbury, so we had, Jack Benny was in one house, and then George Burns, and we had, right up the street was Rosemary Clooney, Agnes Moorehead, Lucille Ball, all on one street. Well, Judy lived across this boulevard, across Sunset. So it was Lana Turner, Judy Garland, Sammy Cahn, Humphrey Bogart, Bing Crosby, all on one street, all on one block. And we'd all get together at Sammy's house because he played the piano. So we'd all go there because, you know, we all love to sing and dance and carry on. So it was a wonderful time. You know, those were great days. And that's what you have here, you know, like you have a club here, this is Friars, you get together and you have a good time. I hope you have a piano player. So, hope when you get together you entertain.
Now
That's
back at MGM, there was another turning point in your career with Unsinkable Molly Brown. And that was your first Oscar nomination. You were nominated
Yes.
for Best Actress.
Yeah.
What was it like being nominated for an Oscar?
Well, I thought it was very exciting. You know, it was a lovely part. I saw the part here with Tammy Grimes. And when I saw the play here, I loved the play. I loved it. But I really thought I could do it better. I swear to God, I sat in the audience, I was mesmerized. I said, I have to play that part. That's me. I'm Molly Brown. So I had to fight really hard for it. It's a long story, but I was finally able to do it. And I think I should have won, yeah.
Such a great film, and then you jump forward to doing Sister Anne in The Flying Nun, in The Singing Nun. You didn't fly, you just sang.
You almost got it right, but it's not easy to do this, Ellis. You know, I'm
Not with you, it's not.
You see, Ellis, it was simple.
You think
They
the
could have
cafe
just
crawl
left me
all
up
is a
here, and I
challenge?
would
This
have
is
been
a
happy to
challenge.
do 2 hours. It's not a problem with me, Ellis. I can talk, tell you the stories.
You don't need me.
It's called The Singing Nun,
Yes.
which I did. It was okay.
Ricardo
picture.
Montalban.
Ricardo Montalban was Agnes Moorehead, Greer Garson was
Garson, what a cast. Huh?
and Dominique, Nique sont de lady simplement his pleasure to acclaim. That was the song that turned out to be a hit. Of course, it was a hit, and then they put it in the picture. That's why they did that at that time. But that wasn't a great. I ran it the other night. I thought, well, that wasn't as great. I wish it had been better. They wanted to change the ending, so they made it kind of corny.
No.
They should have told the true ending.
Now, when you were singing these songs that were released as records, did you make any money in the way of royalties from the records?
It's so funny when people say, "Did you make any money?" Well, if I did, my husband would have gotten it anyway. It really doesn't matter. I've just given all that out. I call that the O's war. You know, all the O's go. Did I make any money? No. And before 70s, if you worked before 70s, 1970, you did not get residuals. So not any actor gets residuals. Not any actor, nor editor, nor anybody gets a dime. So Mr. Turner, he does pretty good. But he sold it now, so it's Warner Brothers that gets it. They get a lot of money, and we get nothing. And well, they made the movies, they created them, so I don't deserve it. But I think that because they do have residuals, it would be nice if the older generation, like Catherine Grayson and myself, were still alive. There's only about 3 of us out of thousands that are still alive. So day by day, what does it matter whether they pay us or not? Because pretty soon it's checkout.
But you did.
I have 20 minutes left. Thank God I love lunch.
Thank God the chicken was good.
Not the chicken, so
Okay.
I can kick it anytime.
Now you were America's
And I
Sweetheart.
saved my money, so it's a good while.
NBC entered the
My
picture.
husband didn't get this. I paid for all this shit.
1969. You had your own
What is
TV.
it, Alice? What do you want,
1969.
Daphne?
You had your own TV series, and you and NBC clashed quite a bit. I understand.
No, I had a series, you know, on NBC, a 2-year deal, positive, and then they advertised, they promised me they weren't going to advertise cigarettes, so they weren't, but they did, and so I said, well, you said you were going to advertise ketchup, because that was what Mott's applesauce or ketchup, they could do either, you know. They said they weren't going to do smoking things. So I said, well, I would rather not have cigarette advertising, because it isn't as if I know I can't do anything about it, because Congress was just coming up for the vote. This was just before, the vote was just after Christmas, so it was September, so January, February, and I think is when Congress voted no more advertising on television. But before that, they advertised. So I said, well, I don't really want to do that. I don't want to do that. I want you to not do that. But R.J. Reynolds, you know, tobacco companies are very powerful to this day. And so they said, well, then we just fire you, Debbie. I said, well, you can't fire me because I have a contract for 2 years. So you have to keep me or pay me. So they said, well, we're not going to do either. We're just, I said, well, I don't have to do it, do I? That's the good news. So you don't have to pay me, and I don't have to show up. And so we could just not do the series. So I quit. Well, I just quit. I thought, you know, people have to make a stand sometimes. Sometimes you just have to make a stand. Now, it cost me a fortune, but then I figured, what the hell, if I'd made a fortune, the husband would have gotten it.
Going back a minute, when you were doing these films, did you, as Debbie Reynolds, did the directors ever listen to any of your suggestions, or did you just always have to follow the guys, so to speak?
No, I think after a while you learn your craft. Goodness knows, George and Larry and those of us that are in the business, and all of you probably out there, yeah, that know after you work 20 years and 15, you should know what you're doing. And God gives you talent, and if you love it and you train, and it's what you love, you're good. And if you are, and you should be, you make people happy. So, what can I say about it all? I don't...
What's the matter with Helen? MGM made a horror movie.
I produced that.
You produced
I love
it
that. I
yourself.
wanted to do that. I wanted to do it. I read the book, and it was called Friends. So I bought the book for $200 and some thousand, because this is before my husband. Yeah. Well, I was married to Harry. You know, I didn't know he was gambling so much at the Friars.
He was a friar.
He probably paid for this building. It's the one in L.A. he paid for. Yeah, well, he did. Boy, man, he lost a lot of money. Because you play every day. You play cards. Don't you still do that? Yeah. Well, I don't know who plays, but I hope you win. But Tony Martin lost all his, well, he didn't lose all of his money, but he lost a lot. And Harry lost a lot, you know, like $500,000.
Silver.
And Phil Silvers played all the time too, and Mike Todd and Dean Martin, and they all played together. But unfortunately, what happened is they I think it was at the Friars, right, where they put some lights up above, and somebody cheated. You know, they put some viewing things. So it's sort of a scandal. And those of you that know, and those of you that don't know, you'll hear it now. But it happened in L.A. and it was just some crook, you know. It wasn't a friar, but they could cheat. So the FBI found out about it, and they closed them down, and they came to my house, and they knocked on the doors, and put boards up, and took the guy who's called Al Mathis. They own the luau, and he was sent up. They were prosecuted for that. And Harry lost millions, some of mine. I could have shopped forever. Well, he lost his too, I guess, but whatever. There's millions of that. Tony Martin too, you know. I always prayed that Tony would be okay, and Sid to the end, but thank God they were okay. Just okay. I mean, because of the money that they lost gambling. Terrible.
Well,
it's a terrible disease.
I can tell that I'm sitting across from a very strong cookie, but how did you forge your way through all that debt? Because you had to start all over again, right?
Well, I'm not a strong cookie. I'm a survivor.
Okay.
A strong cookie is a tough cookie.
Well, I think you're tough too.
No, I'm a survivor, and I believe in God.
I think you're a survivor.
I believe in God, and I believe that if you work hard and if life presents great strife to you, you have to be stronger than the most difficult situation that you're in, or you have to give up and kill yourself. So you have a choice of killing yourself or surviving. So my choice is to live and to try to keep living well, because it's always nice if you can afford to have a good piece of chicken. So I'm a survivor because I believe in life. I believe God gives you life to live, and it's not fair when it's always tough on you. But that's what happens. I have very poor taste in men, so it's really not anybody's fault. It's just my poor taste. I just have bad taste. It runs in the genes. My daughter married, Paul Simon. He's a short Jew too. So. And he's a nice boy. She didn't take him. She didn't take him to the cleaners. I told her to, but she didn't.
And then came Broadway. And Irene, how did that come about?
Did you like the segue? I came to Broadway because my husband had lost everything, and I had no money. I had four houses before.
Were you living in your car?
Yeah, I was living in my car, and it was a very difficult time. And so Harry Rigby sent me this script, and a play in New York. I didn't want to do that. I mean, I didn't know how I could do that. I'd have to take my children out of school. Carrie was 15, Todd was 14, 13. So those were tough times, and so I decided, well, I had another choice, because there wasn't a film in line, and the houses were being taken away by the banks, so I had to get out of my house in 3 days. Everything was taken. And you have no choice, bankruptcy or whatever it is they do, and they just legally. I had lawyers too, but I didn't win. I guess I have no choice in lawyers either. So, not a good taste. So the O's War, I haven't won the O's War yet. So off I went to New York, and it took 6 months. We were on the road, right, George? We were in Philadelphia. We were everywhere. We were in Washington. We did 14 openings and 15 closings, and we went from Sir John Gielgud was the director, and he was totally wrong. He was the most wonderful man in the world, but he was wrong for this play. Gower Champion came in because I called him, and he was in Malibu with a beautiful girl, and he came in and rescued us. And Joe Stein rewrote it, and we worked really very, very hard. And the Minskoff Theater was opening, and we opened, and we were a hit for 2.5 years.
And of course, you don't remember this, but I was one of your gophers. And
You were?
You were very kind to all of us young kids who were fascinated with New York and Broadway. And I wrote you a couple of times to tell you how much that meant to us. You really took care of all of us kids because we were all struggling too.
Well, I take care of everybody because I love everybody.
You really were a great, you were like, we all called you Mother, if I remember.
That's right, I have everybody call me Mother.
Now, that resulted in your first Tony Award nomination for Best Actress too.
Yes, and George won. I was really so thrilled he was. I was just so thrilled. Well, you deserved it, George. So did I. We all deserved it. We were all terrific in that show.
Drunken English broad got it.
Bitch.
You stopped making movies and you segue into, I mean, you have I think you made more TV movies and TV.
Well, nobody segues. Isn't that sweet? You're not asked anymore to make movies.
You kind of gave up on movies because you didn't like where they were going,
well,
right?
It's just, I'm not going to do nude pictures, and I'm not going to do, there's certain things that I just really, as a moralistic person, won't do. I just don't enjoy it, and I wouldn't like it. It was the greatest part in the world. I just really couldn't do it. So I know that's not right. That most actresses will do whatever's required of them, but I'm very square about that. So there were a lot of things that I wouldn't do, but I've always loved the stage. I would write to the Riviera, write to the Desert Inn, write to the nightclubs, and write on the road. And I work 42 weeks a year. I'm on the road still to this day. Work gets a little tougher now because of the economical times. A lot of theaters are closed, but I still work all year long, and I'm gone. And I came here in New York. This is the first time I've come here to work a cabaret because I've never worked a room this small. So this is a new challenge.
What about working on Will and Grace? Because I mean, you get countless TV shows.
Well, that's television, and that was a great part for me because I said, well, if you just don't make her dumb, make her funny. You know, make her an older mother, make her mother. That's fine. Because I am what I am. I'm my age, but I'm a funny old lady, and so I don't want to play somebody boring, you know what I mean? It's uninteresting. So they wrote a really funny lady, funny part. So I enjoyed Will and Grace. Yes, I'd like to find another part like that.
You had to be offered more Broadway shows.
I am offered Broadway shows, but I can't, 8 shows a week, I can't do. I don't want to do 8 shows a week. It's too hard. I know there's a pause, and people would be grateful to get the offer, but I just feel I want to live.
What's the?
If they would make it 6 shows a week, we could make it. Split the bill. Use 2 stars. Do 4 shows a night. 4 shows and 4 and 4. Split the bill. Then people could live, but I don't know how Angela's doing it. I've done it. I don't understand. I can't do that. I don't want to do that. I want to live. And I know I physically couldn't do it. So, you have to know what you can do physically. And I know I couldn't do that. So I'm barely able to do what I'm able to do, which is a lot. And I feel God is good with me with that. And he kind of warns me when I can't do otherwise,
Was there a particular film you wanted to do that you missed out on?
Well, there was a film called The Actress, which was years and years ago at MGM Studios that Dory Sherry had come there and L.B. Mayer was gone, and I was set to do The Actress with Spencer Tracy. And then they replaced me 2 days before we were going to shoot with Gene Simmons because they said they didn't think I could act the part, that I was too young. And I always felt that I would have done a good part, the Ruth Gordon part. So I know I would have. That disappointed me, that I wasn't allowed to be challenged at that young. They thought I was, it's too bad that they didn't have the courage to let me do that. I would have liked that. That's the only thing I've missed that I wanted to do. I mean, as far as what do I want to do today, I was considering doing the show Lattice and Lovage. I thought that would be fun to do. Learn it, but I was told it took 6 months to lay down the script, to memorize it. But that took a big commitment. And I don't have enough time because I'm out of O's. So, you have to keep working to make O's. And so I don't have time to stop work to memorize a script for 6 months. It would take that much to lay it down, and I don't know who would produce it. So it'd be an awful lot of work, but I would like to do that. I like it, so it's a wonderful show.
Well, you certainly destroyed all of my notes and all
I
of
did?
my research, and I thank you.
all
Would you like
right.
to take a few questions from the audience?
Well, oh, sure. Anybody want to, anything that I didn't tell you? I mean, I always tell everybody everything.
Anita?
Everybody.
Hi,
Anita?
Debbie.
Hi.
It's Anita Gillette.
Hi, dear.
Hi, hon. I just have to ask you for my own self. You must be one hell of a mother. How did you manage to make your two children still these days your best friends?
Well, I was always their mother. I didn't try to be their best friend. There were rules, and they had to do their homework, and they were disciplined, and I felt it was very important to parent my children. And so at times, my daughter and I especially, we'd hit heads because she wouldn't want to continue her education or to do certain things I knew she had to do. So she had to go my way. So times to be a good parent, you can't be their friend at certain times. Then they'll come around if you're right and if you're a good parent, which I've always tried to be. My mother and daddy were great to me, and they were wonderful parents, and I've been very blessed. And I still have a brother who's marvelous. But thank you for noticing. Carrie's coming to Broadway, so I hope you'll all be supportive. She's written a show called Wishful Drinking, which is about me. And
when Carrie came to you and said she wanted to be in show business, you actually, if I recall correct, you took her to Kay Thompson for Kay to evaluate her. But then you and Carrie appeared at the London Palladium together, right?
in 1973, my daughter has a great voice like her daddy Eddie, and I don't want to talk about him, but he had a great voice. Eddie was a great singer, and she has that. She's never used it, and now you'll hear a little bit of it in the play, although it's more autobiographical. Very funny. It's a comedy. It is beautifully written, and so I always worry about her coming to the critics worry about that for any performer ever. But she'll be great. And you'll all go see her.
Another question, anyone?
I'm a comic, and I was booked in grossing. That was my big account. And there you were, a very non-Jew, quite sitting with Eddie Fisher. And they told me you had been married there, either the day before or the day after. The glass was still broken on the floor. So I was very impressed to see Eddie Fisher and you. See, who realized that was your first mistake? It looked great. But anyway.
When I saw the glass broken, I should have taken a sign.
Well,
I was religious, but
they let the glass stay there. They let the glass stay there because they had an East Indian wedding after that. They broke the glass and then they walked on it. Anyway, you look lovely. Time has been very kind to you.
Any other questions?
Yes. Debbie?
Yes.
Friar Bob Greenberg. I had the pleasure of seeing you in Las Vegas, working with Jerry Lewis, actually, at the Desert Inn. Do you remember that engagement?
When I was with Jerry? Or
yes, at the Desert Inn. And then you were at your own casino museum, and I had the pleasure of buying your water. I have your water with your name on it. You were selling your water, bottled
Did you
water.
pump it?
I didn't have the pleasure, but...
We can meet later.
All right. That works just fine. But I remember your museum.
My pipes have rusted.
Oh. I won't go there. I just remember how wonderful your museum was, and that you were one of the first people to think about keeping, like Laurel and Hardy's wardrobe in their car. And that museum was fabulous. Where is all that wonderful stuff, and why haven't you done something with it?
Want to tell them where it is?
Well, I've been trying since 1970. I have 5,000 costumes. I have 40,000 square feet. I've been trying to open a motion picture museum, not of my stuff, but all the great stars of motion pictures, and call it the Hollywood Motion Picture Museum, as well as I have Jack Benny and Sophie Tucker and Fanny Bryce and a lot of I wanted to call it the Great White Way, and have some of our stage stars, Al Jolson, Eddie Cantor. I just I want to save the history. So I've been trying to do that. I'm having a rough time now because it's rough times. So one of our backers just backed down, and so right now it's in limbo. So everything's in storage. It's not lost yet, but I am now considering breaking it all up and selling it, which is awful, to Christie's. Well, I tell you the truth, there comes a time in your life when perhaps you have to walk down a different path. And you can't be the savior to everything. You can try, and I have tried since 1970. This is now 2009. So I can't, afford to keep going on pouring every penny I have into the collection. Last year we were able to save the ascot dress of Audrey Hepburn, where she says, "Oh, your blooming ass." And so we have the ruby red slippers, we have the subway dress, we have Hello Dolly, Barbara Streisand, all of Grace Kelly's things, Clark Gable, everybody, Alec Guinness, Marlon Brando, everybody, great. All Planet of the Apes, Charlton Heston, everything, full collections of everybody, all the actors, not just the leading actors, but all the character actors, Lee Marvin and all the character actors. So it should be saved, yes, and I'm trying to get a museum to buy it. That's what I'm working on now. Right now I'm trying to get an institution to buy the entire collection. And they can pay it off, and I would take any kind of deal because I want it to be saved. So we'll see. You'll all pray for me because we'll pray for the collection. We're all working at it.
Ms. Reynolds, on behalf of Dean Freddie Roman and producer Randy Levine Miller, Friar Randy Levine Miller, and myself, all the Friars, we'd like to thank you very much for the pleasure of your company today.
Thank you for this. This is a great honor. I thank you very much. And I love my chicken. I had a good time. I love Larry Sturgis. I love George Irving. Thank all my friends for coming today. And I want to introduce Jenny Powers, my assistant, who put this all together also on my side, because I wouldn't have ever been able to do it. She put it together. Say a little badge.
Thank you all for coming. This is a very memorable afternoon. Do you know the Friars handshake?
No, I don't know the handshake. That's wonderful. Very exciting. Well, imagine that you have a daughter who's not good at Broadway. I love her, Carrie, and her career. She's a brilliant writer. I love that she's having the opportunity to bring the material and act, to do it for herself, and the audience will get to see her and her wonderful. It's a very funny show. I've seen it 7 times, 8 times. Everywhere she's over, I've gone to Santa Fe.
These are Friars.
No, I'm the parent. I always said to her when she was little and when she and I would disagree, I said, you don't win because you don't have a vote. I'm the parent. And I love you and I adore you and I want things to go well. You just have to do what I say. So of course there was the usual problem between mother and daughter. Long songs. Even though do I give her advice? I give her a lot of advice that she never listens to. So it's the same relationship as her mother towards her daughter. Gives her great advice and she listens to nothing. She never minds me, she never listens to anything I say. But she says she does in the back of her mind that when she's at meetings, sometimes my voice will come forward and she'll hear what I say and then she'll do it. And she'll actually do something that I advise her. Not at all. I didn't care. I wanted the children to be happy and well. And after that, I never expected her to. Although she was a real talent. She was a great singer. Because nobody's heard her sing. They were here right now on Broadway. You remember when you were just a little girl, you wouldn't ever sing. You always shied away, and I always said, I loved you to sing because you have a great voice. But you wouldn't do it. And then we went to New York, and I did a play called Irene, and there was a song I wanted you to sing called You Made Me Love You. I didn't want to do it. I did. I didn't want to do it. You made me want you. And all the time you knew it. I guess you always knew it. You made me happy sometimes, always. You made me glad. But there were times, dear, I made you feel so bad. It's true. And then there was a song you picked out that
I thought about it for 30 years. I stopped singing for 30. I finally decided to sing.
when you did
Happy days are here again. The skies above are clear again. So let's sing a song of cheer again. Happy days are here again. All together, shout it now. There's no one who can doubt it now. That's why you married Eddie. So let's tell the world about it now. Happy times, happy nights, happy days are here again.
That's great. What a great voice. What a great voice.